Welcome to This Explainer. We are jumping straight down the quantum rabbit hole today to unpack the paradoxes behind quantum physics. We're going to be looking at 10 absolutely mind-bending anomalies that don't just bend the rules of classical physics, biology, and statistics, they literally break them. We're talking about the kinds of concepts that will completely shatter your everyday understanding of reality.
So think about this for a second. What if something you do tomorrow could actually reach back in time and change what you did yesterday? Crazy, right? Well, that is exactly the kind of impossible frontier we're dealing with today. We're venturing into a territory where cause and effect seem to play by an entirely different, almost magical set of rules.
But before we get into the really wild stuff, we need to quickly define what we're actually looking at here. A quantum anomaly is not a glitch in the data. It's not a broken machine. It is a very real glimpse into the universe's hidden rulebook. When the basic laws of physics that we rely on every single day just completely fail, these anomalies show us that our current understanding of reality is kind of just a rough draft, and it's waiting to be overwritten by something way more complex. Let's start with part 1, the quantum secrets of life. And our journey actually begins out in the natural world, not in some freezing, sterile laboratory. Get a load of this number: 95 to 99% efficiency. That is the basically impossible rate that Professor Graham Fleming out at UC Berkeley found in photosynthetic proteins. When his team tested how plants convert solar energy, they found they operate at near absolute perfection. How on earth do they do that? By using quantum coherence. It's like a commuter who doesn't just try one route to work, but somehow magically takes every possible route simultaneously to instantly find the fastest one. In a warm, messy biological cell, that fragile quantum state should collapse instantly. But Fleming's team found that plants can sustain it thousands of times longer than they should be able to, perfectly capturing that energy. It turns out life itself quietly runs on delicate quantum mechanics all around us. Take the European robin. It actually uses quantum entanglement, which is that wild concept Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance, to literally see the Earth's magnetic field and navigate across whole continents. Or think about your own body. Enzymes inside of you use quantum tunneling to quite literally teleport through chemical barriers, speeding up biochemical reactions by millions of times. Nature hasn't just survived all this quantum weirdness, it has completely weaponized it. And this leads us to a genuinely profound conclusion about life. MIT physicist Jeremy England actually modeled this out mathematically, and he suggests that life isn't just some lucky cosmic accident. Think about how water inevitably flows down a hill. Well, England's math shows that atoms sitting out in the sun's energy will inevitably reorganize themselves into living things just to dissipate that energy more efficiently. Under that lens, you aren't a biological fluke. You are a thermodynamic inevitability. Moving right along to part 2, we see matter completely defying classical logic. Because biology isn't the only thing acting strange. Basic physical logic completely falls apart at the quantum level. You know that old myth about hot water freezing faster than cold water? Well, in the quantum world, that kind of backward logic is mathematically real. In our everyday classical physics, a shorter distance always means a faster trip, right? But the quantum Mpemba effect dictates the exact opposite. If you have two identical systems trying to get back to their baseline state, the one that starts much farther away can actually finish its journey faster than the one starting close by. It completely defies common sense.
And this wasn't just a fun idea on a chalkboard for long. Look at how fast this moved. It went from a theoretical prediction in 2020 to being completely proven just 4 years later by a research team in Italy in 2024 using trapped ions. They experimentally proved that a particle with a longer travel distance finished the process way faster. So out there in the quantum realm, your past trajectory literally matters more than your present position.
Okay, buckle up because it gets weirder. You'd think an object and its properties are a package deal, right? Like an apple and its redness, you can't separate them. Well, much like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland leaving its smile behind, scientists in Vienna actually proved that a particle's essence can be separated from the particle itself. Using these incredibly delicate, weak measurements, they sent physical neutrons down one path, while their spin, their actual physical magnetic properties, traveled down a completely different physical path. No way, right?
And if separating an object from its own properties doesn't melt your brain, how about breaking basic counting? Let's do some elementary math. If you have 3 pigeons and 2 boxes, at least 2 of those pigeons have to share a box, right? That's just logic. But the quantum pigeonhole effect mathematically proves that if you put 3 quantum particles into 2 boxes, absolutely 0 of them will share the same box. Verified by multiple independent research groups, this basically confirms that physical locations aren't even fixed truths until they're strongly interacted with. Which perfectly cues up part 3, how the act of looking actually alters physical reality. This is where things get genuinely unsettling. Imagine knowing for 100% fact that a chair is sitting in a pitch-black room without turning on a light, opening the door, or interacting with that room in any way whatsoever. Well, a team led by Paul Kwiat at Los Alamos pulled off a staggering 85% accuracy rate doing exactly that on a quantum scale. They successfully detected an object's presence without a single photon ever touching it. By splitting a photon's path, they found that an object blocking one path completely changed the outcome at the detector, even though the measuring photon never actually crossed paths with the object. It's called interaction-free measurement, and it is wild. You know the old saying, a watched pot never boils? Yeah, that is literally true in quantum mechanics. It's called the Zeno effect. Constant, heavy observation can entirely freeze a system's decay. But on the flip side, physicists also figured out that if you tune those observation pulses to hyper-short windows, like millionths of a second, you trigger the anti-Zeno effect. That actually accelerates the system's decay way, way beyond its natural rate. Just the act of looking dictates the speed of reality. Now, for decades, a lot of physicists argued that all this weirdness was just human ignorance. You know, like our microscopes just weren't good enough yet. But in 2012, the PBR theorem completely wiped that comforting thought away. It mathematically proved that the wave function, that weird blur of probability surrounding particles, is a real, literal, physical thing. Meaning, we are forced to accept that the chair you are sitting on right now exists as a literal blur of probability until the moment observation forces an objective outcome into existence.
Let's look at part 4, temporal paradoxes. Because if observing something changes physical matter, it also entirely shatters the linear flow of time. Forget cause and effect.
Okay, really let this one sink in, because the 1999 quantum eraser experiment is hands down one of the most stunning paradoxes behind quantum physics. Here's what happens. A signal photon hits a detector and leaves a permanent recorded trace in the past. Done. Logged. But later on, in the future, researchers completely erase the data of its entangled twin partner. The exact moment they do that in the future, the pattern that was already permanently recorded in the past magically changes to match the new reality. A choice someone made tomorrow literally went back in time to rewrite yesterday.
And finally, part 5, the survival bias paradox. We have reached the absolute existential bottom of the rabbit hole where statistical anomalies totally upend how we view the survival of humanity. Researchers Nick Bostrom and Anders Sandberg out of Oxford highlighted a genuinely terrifying statistical bias called the anthropic shadow. Think about how we calculate huge apocalyptic risks, like an asteroid strike. We base our models on historical data, but that data is inherently dangerously flawed because it's pre-selected for survival. We are a species trying to calculate the odds of our own destruction using a dataset that completely leaves out all the civilizations that didn't survive to write their history down. Our safety metrics are literally built out of shadows.
Now, obviously, all these anomalies are incredibly complex to map out. But humanity isn't just sitting on its hands here. Everyday open-source developers are stepping up. For example, a GitHub user named All-Knowing Roger built a digital framework called the Quantum Nexus Project. It's an application running in Google AI Studio specifically designed to catalog and explore these exact paradoxes. We're essentially deploying cutting-edge AI just to try and wrap our heads around this physics-breaking data.
So wrapping up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with a pretty massive question to chew on. We've seen that observation changes matter, that life is thermodynamically inevitable, and that the future can reach backward and rewrite the past. If all of that is true, are we merely an inevitable mechanism the universe created just so it could look back at itself? Or is every single choice we make shaped by historical pathways hidden deep in the quantum realm? The paradoxes are out there, and our understanding of reality, well, it's really just getting started.